Welcome back, everyone. In 1984, a social psychologist named Robert Cialdini did something almost no academic had done before. He went undercover. For 3 years, he trained as a used car salesman, a fundraiser, an advertiser, and a recruiter, embedding himself inside the industries that had spent decades perfecting the art of getting people to comply, not through logic, but through a small, repeatable set of psychological triggers. The result was Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, a book that didn't just describe why people say yes. It reverse-engineered the exact mechanisms compliance professionals use, deliberately or instinctively, to make yes feel automatic. Today we're cracking open the full blueprint. We're throwing out the idea that persuasion is about clever arguments and installing the 7 core levers that actually move human behavior, whether you're aware of them or not. This is a long one, so settle in. We're going through the entire system, principle by principle. Let's decode the engine. Introduction. The click, were of automatic behavior. Cialdini opens the book with an observation from the animal kingdom that becomes the organizing metaphor for everything that follows. A mother turkey will instinctively care for anything that makes the specific cheep sound of a turkey chick. Even a stuffed polecat, a natural turkey predator, will be nurtured rather than attacked, as long as a small speaker inside it plays the right sound. Remove the sound, and the mother turkey attacks the very same stuffed toy as a threat. The behavior isn't triggered by the whole situation. It's triggered by a single, narrow stimulus, and once that stimulus is present, the rest of the behavior runs on autopilot. What Cialdini calls a click, or response. His central argument is that humans have our own version of this mechanism. We're bombarded with far more information and far more decisions than we can consciously evaluate every day. So we rely on mental shortcuts, simplified rules of thumb that usually serve us well, but that can be triggered automatically, sometimes even when they lead us somewhere we wouldn't consciously choose to go. Compliance professionals, whether they've read a page of psychology or not, have learned through trial and error exactly which triggers reliably produce these automatic yes. And the rest of the book is a systematic. The first, and, according to Cialdini, one of the most powerful principles is reciprocity, the deeply ingrained social rule that we should repay, in kind, what another person has given us. This rule is so deeply wired into human culture that societies without some version of it are difficult to find, because a functioning system of reciprocal obligation was essential to human cooperation and survival long before formal economies existed. The power of reciprocity lies in an asymmetry Cialdini highlights repeatedly. The initial favor doesn't need to be large, and it doesn't even need to be requested for the obligation to repay it to kick in. A free sample, an unsolicited small gift, an unexpected favor. All of these create a felt sense of debt that people go to surprising lengths to resolve, often repaying with something considerably more valuable than what was originally given. Cialdini illustrates this with the door-in-the-face technique, a specific application of reciprocity involving concession rather than gift-giving. A requester opens with a deliberately large, likely to be refused request, and then retreats to a smaller, more reasonable one, the actual target all along. Because the second request looks like a concession, the person on the receiving end feels a reciprocal pull to concede something in return, typically by agreeing to the smaller ask they might have refused if it had been the opening request. Principle 2. Commitment and consistency, the prison we build for ourselves. The second principle rests on a simple but powerful human drive. Once we've made a commitment, especially an active, public, or effortful one, we feel enormous internal pressure to behave consistently with that commitment, even when circumstances change or the original reasoning no longer fully applies. Cialdini explains the underlying mechanism as a kind of mental shortcut for self-image. Being consistent is generally treated as a marker of a strong, rational character, while being inconsistent is treated as flighty or unreliable. Because of this social value placed on consistency, once we've taken a small stance, even a seemingly trivial one, we experience internal and external pressure to align our future behavior with it, often escalating our commitment step by step without ever having made one single large decision. This principle produces one of the book's most famous techniques, the foot in the door approach. Getting someone to agree to a small, low-cost request first. Signing a minor petition, answering a short survey, wearing a small pin, makes them measurably more likely to agree to a larger, related request later, because refusing the second request would now feel inconsistent with the identity they've already signaled through the first. Cialdini also discusses the low-ball technique, where an attractive initial offer secures a commitment, and only afterward is some element of the deal quietly changed for the worse. Yet the earlier commitment, and the identity attached to it, keeps a surprising number of people locked in even after the terms shift. Uncertainty matters because social proof functions as a mental shortcut specifically for situations where we don't have enough information to decide confidently on our own. In an ambiguous emergency, for example, bystanders often look to each other's reactions to determine whether something is actually a crisis, and if everyone else appears calm, that calm becomes contagious, sometimes with tragic consequences, a phenomenon closely related to what researchers call pluralistic ignorance. Similarity matters because we weight the behavior of people like ourselves far more heavily than the behavior of people we perceive as different. Cialdini points to the design of canned laughter in television, testimonials from people just like you in advertising, and the deliberate seeding of a tip jar with a few dollars before a venue opens, all exploiting the same underlying mechanism. We look to comparable others to figure out the socially correct response, and once we see enough of them behaving a certain way, that behavior starts to feel like the obviously correct choice rather than one option among many. Principle 4. Liking. Why we say yes to people we enjoy. The fourth principle is disarmingly intuitive and, according to Cialdini's research inside sales organizations, ruthlessly effective in practice. We are simply far more likely to comply with requests from people we like. The compliance industry has identified several specific, reliable drivers of liking, and Cialdini walks through each one. Physical attractiveness produces what researchers call a halo effect, where positive traits like talent, kindness, and intelligence get unconsciously attributed to attractive people, even in contexts entirely unrelated to appearance. Similarity, whether real or merely implied, increases liking rapidly. People are more easily persuaded by others who share their background, opinions, personality traits, or even something as trivial as a first name. Compliments, even ones that recipients suspect might be somewhat insincere, still reliably increase liking toward the person delivering them, because the brain seems to respond to the compliment itself more than to a fully rational assessment of its sincerity. Cialdini also highlights the power of mere contact and cooperation. Repeated positive exposure to someone increases liking on its own, and the experience of working together toward a shared goal accelerates that effect considerably, which is part of why compliance professionals so often engineer a sense of us working on this together, even in a straightforwardly transactional interaction. Finally, association matters. We tend to like people, and to say yes to requests, connected to things we already view positively, which is the underlying logic behind celebrity endorsements and the strategic linking of a product to good news or good feelings rather than bad ones. Principle V. Authority, deferring to the person in the white coat. Cialdini's specific contribution is to identify the symbols of authority that trigger this deference automatically, often independent of whether genuine expertise or legitimate authority is actually present. Titles are one of the most powerful and least examined of these symbols. A person introduced with an impressive title is perceived as taller, more credible, and more persuasive than the exact same person introduced without one. Clothing functions the same way, which is why uniforms and formal attire reliably increase compliance with requests, even trivial ones, from complete strangers. Trappings, expensive cars, official-looking credentials, impressive-sounding affiliations, produce the same automatic deference, frequently without anyone consciously verifying that the trapping actually reflects real expertise. The practical implication Cialdini draws out is that appeals built around shared identity, people like us do things like this, tend to be dramatically more persuasive than appeals built purely around the merits of an individual argument, because the request is no longer being evaluated on its own terms. It's being evaluated as an expression of who we are, and refusing it starts to feel like a small betrayal of that shared identity rather than a simple, neutral decision. Phase 8. how these triggers compound in the real world. Cialdini is careful throughout the book to note that compliance professionals rarely rely on a single principle in isolation. The most effective real-world persuasion attempts typically stack several triggers together, each reinforcing the others, so that resisting one still leaves you vulnerable to the rest. A well-run fundraising campaign, for example, might open with a small unsolicited gift to trigger reciprocity, ask for a small public pledge to trigger commitment and consistency, highlight how many similar donors have already contributed to trigger social proof, deploy a warm, similar, likable fundraiser to trigger liking, cite endorsements from respected community figures to trigger authority, and close with a limited time matching offer to trigger scarcity, all layered on top of appeals to shared community identity to trigger unity. No single element needs to be overwhelming on its own. The cumulative, compounding effect of several automatic triggers firing simultaneously is what produces the disproportionately high compliance rates Cialdini documented across the industries he studied. Phase 9. Building your own defense system. Because Cialdini wrote the book explicitly as both a manual for practitioners and a warning for everyone else, he devotes considerable attention to how ordinary people can recognize and resist these triggers when they're being deployed against their own interests rather than in service of an honest exchange. His core recommendation is to watch for the specific feeling of being rushed toward a decision, or the specific feeling that saying no would be somehow rude, ungrateful, or inconsistent, because that feeling, more than any conscious evaluation of the offer's actual merits, is usually the signal that one of these automatic triggers has been activated. When you notice that feeling, the appropriate response isn't to argue yourself out of it through willpower alone. Automatic responses are notoriously resistant to being reasoned away in the moment. Instead, Cialdini recommends a specific pause, separating the trigger itself from the actual, underlying merits of the request, and consciously asking whether you'd still want to say yes if the trigger, the free gift, the ticking clock, the sense of obligation, the borrowed authority, were removed from the equation entirely. He's also careful to distinguish honest applications of these principles from exploitative ones. A genuine expert citing real credentials, a legitimately scarce and valuable opportunity, an authentic gift given without strings attached. None of these are manipulative on their own. The danger arises specifically when these triggers are manufactured or exaggerated artificially, disconnected from any underlying reality, purely to produce an automatic yes the requester hasn't actually earned. Phase X, the core laws of influence. To integrate the entire system into daily life, whether you're evaluating a sales pitch, building an honest marketing strategy, or simply trying to notice when you're being moved by something other than your own judgment, synthesize Cialdini's teaching into a handful of operational principles you can actually carry into any situation. Principle 1. Notice the automatic trigger, not just the offer. The specific words, symbols, and structures of a request often matter more than its actual content. Learn to recognize reciprocity, scarcity, authority, and the rest as distinct, nameable mechanisms, not vague persuasive vibes. Principle 2. Separate the debt from the decision. A gift or favor creates a genuine pull toward reciprocation, but that pull is not, on its own, a reason to say yes to an unrelated, larger request. Notice the obligation and evaluate the actual offer separately from it. Principle 3. Watch for manufactured urgency. Scarcity is one of the most reliably manipulated triggers precisely because it's so cheap to fabricate. A closing clock or a dwindling stock count should prompt a pause, not a rush. Titles, uniforms, and trappings produce automatic deference whether or not real expertise sits behind them. Verify the substance before granting the automatic trust the symbol is designed to produce. Principle 5. Ask whether you'd still say yes without the crowd. Social proof and unity are powerful precisely because they let us outsource judgment to the people around us. Before following the crowd, ask what you'd actually decide if you were the only person in the room. Conclusion: the weapons of influence, used honestly. Ultimately, influence delivers a genuinely double-edged insight, and Cialdini clearly intends it that way. The same 7 triggers that compliance professionals have refined into an industry: reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, scarcity, and unity are not inherently manipulative. They exist because, most of the time, they function as efficient, generally reliable shortcuts for navigating an overwhelming amount of daily decision-making. The danger isn't the existence of the shortcuts. It's their exploitation by anyone willing to manufacture the trigger without any of the substance that would normally justify it. Stop assuming that persuasion is primarily a battle of arguments and evidence. Recognize the automatic, click-where triggers at work in every genuine and every manipulative request you encounter. The small gift that creates a debt, the small commitment that locks in a bigger one, the crowd that shapes what feels normal, the liking that lowers your guard, the authority that borrows credibility, the scarcity that manufactures urgency, and the shared identity that makes refusal feel like betrayal. Use them honestly when you're the one asking. Notice them immediately when you're the one being asked. The blueprint is in your hands now. Go decide on purpose. If today's breakdown of reciprocity, commitment, social proof, liking, authority, scarcity, and unity changed how you're going to read the next pitch, ad, or request that lands in front of you, drop the exact trigger you're going to start watching for in the comments below, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next masterclass. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the most persuasive person in the room usually isn't the one with the best argument. They're the one who understands which automatic switch to flip. We'll see you in the next one.